Hello everyone, welcome back to the Cozy Soul Knitting Podcast. If you're new here, hi, hello, I'm Saoirse. I'm a knitter from the greater Seattle area. This is where I talk obviously all about my knitting. I think that this is episode 30 and it's actually been a little longer than it probably seems since I last filmed an episode. I took a really long time, to edit the previous episode. I won't even go into it. It's just been a little bit of a crazy time and I could not get myself to edit that video for a while. So we are back though, and I feel like I have a lot of really good progress to show you. I've got some finished objects, very exciting. One of them is like, I'm so excited. Can't wait to share it. And then of course I have whips. I have like the tiniest little acquisitions, and then I will give a little update on where I'm at with my, I don't know if I want to call it a stash down, but I guess that's kind of what it is. Like I am trying to not buy as much yarn and use more of my stash. So I guess it is a stash down of sorts, but I don't know if I want to label it. Because mostly, like, I'm trying to buy less yarn, but also just kind of trying to be aware of what I'm doing, like how much I'm buying and all of that. It's like a kind of session. So let's get into the podcast. I'm just quickly gonna mention I am wearing the Farnham tee by the Knit Purl Girl. This is knit out of Sandnes Garn Line, or however you say it. And the details, like the yarns that I use, the colors will be listed in the description. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to ask and I will do my best to answer them. But I don't want to talk about it too much because it's been on the podcast many times. Probably one of my most worn garments, especially when it's a little bit warmer out. Why am I wearing it today when it's not warm? I honestly am not sure why I did not put on a sweater. I feel like I'm probably gonna get cold and I might have to put something on over this, but that's fine. I just kind of saw it and put it on today, so. But let's get into finished objects. So my first finished, oh no. Oh no, why did you do that? Had a little blocking issue. What the heck is going on with this? Anyway, I finished my socks that I was working on, my vanilla socks. This yarn is one of the Schoppel Crazy Zauberballs. I will have the colorway in the description because I'm not entirely sure how to say it. So I don't wanna butcher it. So, but it's really beautiful. I believe with the Zauberball, the Crazy Zauberballs, you don't know, like it doesn't go in the same order of color changes. So I didn't try to match them. I feel like there's a lot of fiber coming off of. No, that's just my hair. Okay. I just did my usual vanilla sock. I knit the size small in the vanilla sock pattern by Crazy Sock Lady. That's all the same except for I just knit a sock tube and then I did the afterthought heel. Again, following a tutorial by the Crazy Sock Lady. That's the, you know, plain vanilla sock pattern that I follow. So I wanted to take them off of the sock blockers. Okay, so anyways, here they are. I'm very excited to add these to my collection. As you can see, I do need to clip the ends off. I have not done that because they've been dry actually for a couple days, but I kind of just left them sitting on the blocker. But I don't know if you guys will be able to see this. There's a little bit, this is where I made a little problem on the blocking mat. It wasn't quite flattened there, so it has this weird thing here. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but it dried that way. This one's fine. But yeah, this has this weird kind of bump here, like a little wrinkle. It's probably not gonna affect how they wear, so I won't worry about that. But yeah, just something I think for me to be aware of next time I put socks on the blockers. Make sure that they're nice and flat on both sides. My next finished object is the super duper exciting one. Not that the socks aren't exciting, but this one, it's been on my nails for quite some time. I have finished my Faye summer top. This is, it has a lot of hair on it. This is a pattern by Irene. Just gonna pop it on the hanger real quick. There we go. This is it. This is my Faye summer top. I knit this with Purl Soho Good Wool in the colorway Apple Cider. I think it turned out really, really well. I will pop it on to show you what it looks like, so don't worry. But I just kind of wanted to be able to show it and talk about it and like point to things. So it has kind of these ruffly sleeves that I did just according to pattern. I do think I need to kind of, we'll have to play around with like maybe reblocking some of it, because this one's like really aggressively stands up like that, whereas this side drapes a little bit more naturally, I feel. But I think as I continue to wear it, I feel like it will relax a little bit. But the extra exciting part, I did a little modification at the end here. So basically I knit the hem the same way that you knit the sleeves. So I saw, and I will put a picture of the person's finished object, but I saw a Ravelry user who did this same thing with theirs, and I just couldn't stop thinking about it. And so I ended up making the same modification, and thankfully that person, she put in her notes how she did it. So basically, not to like give away anything about the pattern, but once you kind of, you do the first hem style that the pattern, so the pattern has like 2 different hem options, so you're doing the first one, but like that first, there's like a, there's kind of this section here, I don't know if you can see it, if it might be blowing out a little bit, but some rows where you're kind of knitting and purling to kind of create this little border, and then you have a few rows of just stockinette. And on that first row of stockinette, I did a knit front and back. Wow, I don't know why I couldn't figure out why or what that was called. I did a knit front and back for every single stitch to kind of give it this ruffly hem. I don't know if there's a technical term for that, but I'm really pleased with how it came out. When it, before blocking, I was a little nervous because it kind of looked a little funny, because the hems were like both on the sleeves and the bottom were kind of like sticking out in all these wonky angles, but I figured with blocking they'd relax a little bit, and they pretty much did. I think the only one that is kind of aggressively, this part here, when I put it on, it sticks out I think a little bit more than the other side, but that's fine. Like I said, I think it'll relax after a while, but yeah. And then here's the back if you want to see that, but lots of cables, lots of baubles, lots of lace. I feel like this pattern has a little bit of everything, and it's very fun overall. Like, I had a really good time with this pattern. If you remember, if you've been here for a while, you know that I had a little bit of a false start with this pattern. I used different yarn and it just was not, I did not like it. So I started over with this yarn. From there, it was so much fun. I just had a blast with this. Also, I was doing this as part of a little kind of unofficial little like knit along or buddy knit with Faith from Fiber Fables and also Jenny from Honeybird Studio. So both their channels will be linked down below. Make sure you go and check them out if you haven't already, which I feel like you probably have, but just in case you haven't. But yeah, I finally finished this. So yeah, I love how this pattern was written. I think it does have charts, but I did not use them. I just used the written out instructions, and that was great. But I do believe it's also charted, though I might be wrong. Maybe don't quote me on that. But it's super easy to follow. The only downside is it only has 5 sizes, but I do think Irene Lynn is making an effort to, I think in some of her newer patterns she has more sizes, so, but yeah, this particular one doesn't have a lot of sizes. I knit size 2 if you're curious about that at all. It was just such an enjoyable knit. I just really liked it. It obviously took me a while because, you know, there's so much texture going on, but it was just, yeah, I honestly would knit this again. Usually I kind of feel like, oh, with like a textured knit like this, I wouldn't really want to knit it again because I feel like it could be kind of boring, like you've already done it once, but I honestly do think I would knit this again. Like, I just had a lot of fun. And I think it's one of those things where there's like rows where you're not doing the bobbles and you're not doing the cables, so it's kind of like you can just sort of, like, you still have to pay attention, but you're kind of like knitting the knits, purling the purls, like you don't, you know, so you have kind of breaks in between where there's like a bobble or where you need to do cables. I mean, except for the lace part, I feel like you're, every other row you're going to be doing a little bit of lace work, I think, but still, like, I don't know, it was a good mix of like, it's not something you have to do on every single row, if that makes sense. Like there's some like rest rows, I guess. I don't know, just, I feel I have nothing bad to say about this pattern. I genuinely really like it, and I think when I was first working on it, it was just that I didn't choose the best yarn for what I wanted and for, I think, for the pattern. So I am gonna go ahead and I'll pop this on at the end and I'll include some b-roll of me wearing it. I think is probably the best, but I also like brought in some jeans to try, like, to put them on so you can kind of, so it won't look funny with my sweats that I'm wearing. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and throw it on. This is, so yeah, here is, this is it. See, I feel like this one kind of sticks up more than this side, but I think it'll relax a little bit later. But yeah, it kind of just gives this little like doo-doo-doo. I don't know what to call it, but I think it's really cute. I'm just wearing, I would just pair this with jeans, to be honest. So I just put these on just for the sake of the video, but I'm gonna go change back into my sweats now. So I think I'm just gonna leave this on for the rest of the podcast, but I feel like it fits really well. I really enjoy how it turned out, and I'm glad that I did the fun different little hem. Let us move on to whips. So as per usual, I like to just get the socks out of the way. So I have started another vanilla sock set, and I already have one done. This yarn, let me show you the cakes. This is a sock set from Sewrella yarn. What do I want to say about it? It's one of the Taylor Swift ones, and I have the ball band right here, actually. This is the Karma one. I don't know if you can read that. So yeah. It is their nylon sock set, which is an 80-20 base. Fun little sock set, and this is how much I have of the second one. I casted the second one on and then I kind of lost steam on it, but I'm sure I will get my sock knitting mojo back very soon. And then the other thing to note is I did the contrast color for the cuff, heel, and the toe, which I've never done before, but I always have more than enough left over of the contrast color, I feel, with sock sets. So I wanted to go ahead and try out, make sure that I could do all three if I wanted to. I've always just been worried about running out of the contrast color, but I never get close. So those are my current vanilla socks. Always like to have a pair on my needles. This one so that's a new cast on, I believe, since last time, but this one is a cast on that I had in the last podcast. But this is the turtle dove shawl. It's working up pretty slowly, but I mean, we're knitting on very tiny needles here. These are 3.5 millimeters, so obviously it's gonna take a while, but I did pop this little light bulb stitch marker in there. Hopefully you can see it. That was about where I was in the last episode, so I've gotten a good amount done, and I've actually finished. So the pattern, did I say I said this already? This is the Turtle Dove Shawl by Sari Nordlund. I believe it was a mystery knit along when she first came out with the pattern, and so the charts are broken up into 4 different parts. I think because of that, also because they probably, yeah, they wouldn't all fit on one page anyways, so. But I finished chart 1 and I've started chart 2, but have not gotten very far in chart 2, so yeah. But it's got cables, it's got this cable that's like being made with like twisted stitches there, and then little baubles, more cables. It is a very, very fun knit. It's definitely one of those like super engaging knits where I feel like I could probably pop on a TV show and watch while I'm knitting this, but I feel like it would, yeah, like it would have to be a TV show where I'm like okay with like pausing it to like double check where I'm at, you know? Also here, where the stitch marker is, I did kind of mess up on this like section here. I kind of started out reading the chart wrong, so I kind of messed up there, but I don't think it's going to be, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's going to be super noticeable. It's really exciting, and I feel like it looks, isn't this always the case? It looks like more defined in the viewfinder than in person. It really, I feel like helps me see like the design better, which is cool. So anyways, making good progress on this. It's been a really, really fun knit, and pattern's been great so far. I have zero issues with it. Been a really nice pattern. I would definitely recommend it if you are interested in knitting this. And the other cool thing about this, I think it was like specifically designed to use up like when you have like 50-gram skeins of like a mohair and a fingering weight left over from like a sweater project. It's kind of meant, I think, to use those up, which is really nice. So, and I think I mentioned this in the last podcast, I actually have more of this yarn. So I have, and then I have, I think, one of each, of the fingering and the mohair in my yarn cabinet still. So I do have a lot of this yarn. So it might not have been, like, I probably could have done something else with the yarn, but like to use up more of it, but I just really wanted to knit this. So, oh, I'm showing you the wrong side, but yeah, so here it is. And I'm gonna, you know what I'm gonna do right now? I am going to pop this guy, little turtle, into, I'm just gonna put this, oh, where should I put it? I'll do it right here. If I can, oh my goodness, this is kind of hard. I just popped him on there to be our little progress keeper. I want to try to do that more often so I can be better at telling you like how much I've done in each podcast. So anyways, he's gonna keep track of where I was at. This one's going really well. Again, no complaints with the pattern. Definitely recommending so far. And again, shout out to my friend Miranda for gifting me this pattern because I'm really enjoying it. Yes. Okay. The next 2 projects that I have are new cast-ons, and I feel like they will show that it has been quite a while, because I don't know, I feel like I don't make this much progress on sweater cast-ons between podcast episodes when they're only 2 weeks, so it's been much longer than that, obviously. This is the one that I cast on first since the last episode. So I cast on the Kip sweater. This is a pattern by Clow, aka the Crayabea. I'm sure everybody watching knows her podcast. So here it is. I'll give you a little kind of close-up of the texture. I am knitting this in the suggested yarn, which is Ram Natura Ulysse. probably saying that wrong, apologies. The color that I'm knitting this in is, I think it translates to maple, but I will have it in the description. This is a drop shoulder, all over textured sweater. The texture is done using slip stitches, and let me talk about the yarn first. I love the yarn, just straight up right away, like I will be knitting with this again. I love it. I think they have a lot of gorgeous colors. I want to knit with it again. It is technically a sport weight yarn, but I feel it could be used for quite a few DK weight patterns, probably. Don't quote me on that, I don't know. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and it has this really lightweight texture to it. It's almost spongy, but not in a bad way, if that makes sense. But it feels like it has like some squish to it. It's really nice to work with. I've really been enjoying it. I'm obsessed with this color. I kind of feel like it's been funny because it's been like, I had this on the needles, then I cast it on my sunset sweatshirt, which was also kind of an orange color, and now this is like an orangey red, or kind of like a rusty brown a little bit, right? And then my other cast on, you'll see. I feel like I'm just making my way through colors and kind of like knitting. Like, I don't know why I feel like I've been knitting two things of the same color. I mean, maybe not, right? It's happened twice, so that's not really that. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm saying, because I don't think I understand what I'm saying right now. Basically, I knit two orange things, and now I'm knitting two kind of like reddish type things. You'll see. Okay. Anyways, I love the yarn. And I am having a pretty decent time knitting this. I really like stitch patterns that use slip stitches in this way. I find it just so fun to knit. However, so okay, let me take a step back. I am really enjoying this project overall, but I don't want to really recommend the pattern. I feel like I can't really recommend the pattern because there are some pretty big errors in the pattern. Sorry, my dog is barking. There are some issues in the pattern that are issues that, from my perspective as not a designer and not someone who does a ton of test knits, they are issues that should have been caught in test knitting. And I'm not really, I mean, I have like a theory of what happened, but yeah. And it's like, I get it. Sometimes things happen, sometimes things slip by, slip through the cracks, whatever. For size 3, which is the size that I'm knitting, and I know also based on notes from Ravelry users that people also ran into a similar issue with size 1. And there are potentially other sizes that were impacted by this as well, but some people don't know what size, some people don't note on Ravelry what size they're knitting, so it's hard to tell. Maybe they were also knitting size 3, I don't know, you know? So basically the issue is you're, you know, knitting so you knit the back panel, then you pick up stitches for the left front, then you do the left front, or then you do the right front, and then as you finish the right front, then you cast on stitches to connect it to the left front. Pretty standard, I feel, yes. When you get here and you connect it to the left front, the stitches don't line up in the pattern, right? Like, you're working across in pattern and you get here, it no longer lines up. And for size 3, the fix was just casting on one less stitch in the middle, because of the way that you're working. You don't realize, like, because you cast on the stitches here, so you don't realize that it's not going to match up, and then you go back, and then these casted on stitches can't be worked in pattern that first round, so you just like purl. I think I purled across, and then, you know, when you're coming back on the right side for that third row after joining, when you start working these stitches in pattern, then you realize that they don't match up. And so I didn't really want to go back and try to undo it and redo it, so I just like knitted 2 of them together because I figured it wouldn't matter very much, but I didn't realize that's what I needed to do. So I spent quite a lot of time trying to figure out where I had messed up on this panel. I was trying to make sense of the pattern. I was rereading everything, like reading my stitches, trying to figure out where the heck I went wrong. And I was so lost. I like did not know what to do. So that's why I went to Ravelry, and then I started noticing a lot of people had this issue. And so I found someone who had knitted size 3 and said that they had just cast on one less to join here, and that fixed it for them. And then when I got to joining in the round, I figured, well, okay, I have one less stitch in my front panel. So when I go to join in the round, I'm gonna need to cast on an extra stitch on one of the sides so that they will connect the right way, so that the pattern will line up. However, that did not help. So I did do one more stitch. These, back and front panels still did not line up. So then I, tried different combinations of like casting on stitches. Finally ended up casting on 6 stitches for size 3. And that allowed the pattern to match up on this side. Now on this side, that's the beginning of round, so it's not gonna match up, right? And that's fine because you're starting a new row, so it's gonna be offset, right? And that's, obviously fine. But on this side, they're supposed to match up. And what I'm getting at here is that I accounted for my missing stitch. So you would think that the stitch on the body would be correct too, but that was also wrong. So the pattern was wrong on how many stitches to cast on to join the front panels and also to join the front and back panels. So I did 6 here, by the way, and 6 on this side as well, just to keep it even, because this side doesn't matter, if that makes sense. I just don't understand how something like a stitch count like that could be wrong after it goes through testing. And so I was doing some just looking through, kind of just trying to get a sense of how other people were feeling about this pattern. And I did notice that some of the testers seem to have also ran into this problem, but based on kind of how they worded their Ravelry notes, it sounded like they were just kind of like, oh well, I'll just figure out a way around it. And it kind of sounded, again, I wasn't there, I don't know for sure, but it kind of sounded like they didn't tell Rebecca that they ran into an issue. I want to ramble about this. I don't want to speculate on why this happened. I don't know. I'm not a designer. I don't know what goes on in these test knits. And again, I don't want to like throw shade at anybody. I don't want to, I'm just giving my honest feedback that I personally don't think that these errors should be in a pattern that's been test knitted. But overall, if you're willing to kind of do some of the math in your head and you like the design, then go for it. But if you're someone who you think you would get kind of flustered with that and get really frustrated with patterning, I did see a Ravelry user who thought that the issue was on them and they gave up on the sweater, and that sucks because it wasn't their fault. Like the way that they were describing the issue they were having, I was like, that's what I was having, and it's not. It is the pattern. So anyways, just like kind of a sad little thing, but it's not the end of the world. I just thought I would note that. It's a little bit of a frustrating pattern if you don't go in with the knowledge that there could be errors in it, I think is what I'm trying to say. So if you're good with that and you like this, then go for it. I would highly recommend it. It's a really fun knit. But if you do not want to deal with that, then I would wait till she updates the pattern. I'm sure she will eventually. And I'm not expecting to run into any more issues because there should be no more places in the pattern where any panels need to be. Like I'm just knitting in the round and then I'll pick up stitches for the sleeve and knit in the round, so it's like there shouldn't be any spots where you have to line up the pattern anymore. The other thing I will say about this pattern is the beginning was also a little bit confusing in my opinion, though that is very much more a subjective thing. I think it could have been a little bit clearer on how you're supposed to start the stitch pattern, because it kind of like the pattern acts as if the pattern is charted. And there are charts for the stitch pattern, but it's not, I would not consider this a charted pattern, if that makes sense. Like there's no chart for like the panels or anything. And the way the pattern is worded, it kind of acts as if there are. So it's a little confusing, but once you get the hang of it, it's fine. And I was honestly sitting there, I was like, I don't know how I would have described this in a way that made more sense to me. So I think it's just a little bit of a confusing thing until you get the hang of it. And so I think she did a fairly good job like explaining how it works, because I think it's just a hard thing to explain. So this next whip, before I get into it, I have to share this FO that has been on the podcast before, but I had a little issue where I accidentally didn't weave in a couple of my ends on the sleeves, and I snipped them and they were at risk of unraveling. It's my Lumi pullover. I'm not sure if I am showing you the back. Not that it matters, but this is my Lumi pullover. So on the sleeves on both sides, there was one end of the contrast color that I did not weave in. So I've done that. I've done that. I don't know if I'll be able to show you. Here is kind of where I wove it in. Do you see that kind of thing sticking out? So what I ended up having to do, the end was so short, and for some reason I could not get, I tried to spit splice the yarn, like I had more left over of the Patton's Classic Wool worsted, the green shade, and so I tried to spit splice that, and I could, like, I think the end was just too short, so I just couldn't get enough, like, leverage. There wasn't enough, I don't know, there wasn't enough surface area for them to, like, felt together. So I ended up just tying it, which was really difficult, but I managed to do it, and then I just wove it in and then snipped it. And I tried to kind of, you know, I just was kind of trying to, like, you know, rub this together, kind of try and get the ends to really, like, stick to the floats and stuff. So I don't think it'll come out. I think it's fine, but I did that on both sleeves. So I feel I can get around to wearing this more. And I actually did wear it the other day, and it was reminding me of how itchy the fisherman's wool is, but it goes away pretty quickly, so I had a nice time wearing this. And then my mom saw it, and she really, really likes it. And this color on me, the fisherman's wool in the natural shade, I don't like it on myself. It's too yellow, and I find, like, I have a warm, I know I'm very pale, but I have a warm undertone to my skin, and I think there's something about the yellow in things like this that just, because this is, I would say, more of a cool toned yellow, and it kind of just, I feel like I don't look good in it. I remember Alexa from Hey Alexa Knit was talking about this in one of her podcast episodes, where she was talking about how this kind of color is like a French vanilla ice cream color. This stuck in my brain because she was saying she doesn't, I think she was saying she doesn't like French vanilla ice cream. She prefers, like, vanilla bean, where I was like, I love French vanilla. That's the only vanilla that I will eat in terms of ice cream. But as a yarn color, I do not like it. So I didn't realize that it was going to be this yellowy, and I think part of it is the green brings out the yellow. Why am I talking about any of this? Anyways, the reason I'm bringing this up is that I was kind of like, my mom really liked this, and I was like, oh, well, it's, like, not my colors. So she tried it on, but it didn't fit her. So I'm basically, all that to say is I might knit this again for my mom, and I'm actually really excited about it. I don't have yarn for it, but I would love to knit this again. And I would probably, she didn't like the collar on it, so I would probably need to do something about that. But also, I'll be knitting her a bigger size, so the collar shouldn't be as tight, but I could probably skip the folded collar and just do a short single layer one. Anyways, all that to say, I finished this, and I'm doing Fix It February, kinda. Like, I got a really late start to it, so we'll see how this goes, because it's already, it's February 19th, so. But I was attempting to Fix It February with my friend Amanda. I desperately needed some rewards to finish to fix some of the things, and so I decided if I fix something, I can cast something on. Like, no questions asked. I can just pick something and just cast it on. So I casted on something that I've been wanting to get out of my stash for a really long time. I had this Sari alpaca yarn from Knit Picks. It's their upcycle Sari alpaca. I don't know, it says limited edition on it. I don't know if the yarn was limited edition or the color. So I don't know if they still have this, but anyways, I think the gist of this was that it was like recycled alpaca, and the colorway is Kuntuta, and it's an Aran weight. I have decided, because I originally bought this to knit the Naima pullover, which is patterned by Onkstrick. And I believe that pattern calls for an Aran weight, so I tried to get an actual Aran weight instead of a worsted weight. But when I was trying to work with this and I couldn't get gauge with this, and then because I was more of a beginner knitter at the time, and then the Naima pullover has like eyelets on it, and so with this yarn it was just like not working. I was like, I cannot see what I'm doing. I feel like I'm messing up all over the place, and it's kind of, you know, it's a bit more difficult to work with all of the fuzz. So anyways, I ended up using a different yarn. As if you've been here for a while, you know I used a different yarn, and I used Malabrigo Rios and I also couldn't hit gauge with that either, so then I just went up a size, I think, and knit that size instead. I've just had this yarn sitting in my stash ever since and I had no idea what I wanted to make with it, but then I realized I could knit a cumulus blouse with it because that pattern calls for an Aran weight yarn, and it would be much more cost effective to use the Suri alpaca that's already in my stash than buy, you know, basically double sweater quantity of mohair to hold them double. So I cast it on the cumulus blouse, and I'm so excited. I'm knitting size 2 because I did want it to be a little bit more fitted, and I don't know how to, there you go, kind of bunched up. So I have already joined in the round. I've split for sleeves. Very, very, very exciting. This has just been working out so quickly, and it just keeps making me laugh because I keep thinking about when I was knitting the cumulus tee, and that was working up so slowly, obviously because it's fingering weight and on very tiny needles, and this is Aran weight, so obviously it's working up a lot more quickly, but it's just been kind of funny just thinking back to how slow the other one was going, and then this one is just like, we're already joined in the round and we're already split for sleeves. Okay, anyways, this is my newest cast on, and I don't have too much to say about it. I think when it comes to the cumulus tee and the cumulus blouse, the way that the pattern is written is not my favorite. Sometimes I don't like how petite knit will have you do like raglan increases where like you get to the beginning of round marker and you're supposed to do an increase before you slip the beginning of round marker. So you're essentially doing an increase on the round before, and it just, I don't know, it doesn't work for my brain very well. So I get a little confused, but it's really not that big of a deal, but I just don't like how she does that. I guess, yeah, the way that she's written these patterns is not my favorite, but it's not a deal breaker. I'm excited to have this yarn getting some time and attention, since it's been, I think it's some of my oldest yarn that I have, but I think it's from like 2023, like early 2023, so excited to be working on it now. And this is what I was talking about, where now I'm shifting into more of the reddy colors. This is more of a maroon, but like, you know, maroon, red, brown, like I feel like I'm shifting into those colors now. I just think that's funny. I'm like itching to get a green sweater on the needles, because I'm like, I really gotta get my favorite color back on the needles. Anyways, this is going well. I don't have anything really to say about it other than it's going really well. I'm gonna pop on a progress keeper to track the progress. I'm trying to use some of my progress keepers that I've never used before. We're gonna put this cassette tape. So I've got the progress keeper in there, so we'll know how much progress I made next episode. And then Squirtle here is gonna go on my kip sweater. Squirtle is there. So I'm gonna do acquisitions really quickly, and I'm gonna go through some numbers for my like stash down thing. But anyways, my mom bought me some yarn. So these are gifts. I did not buy anything, but I'm still going to add it to my yardage in that I'm tracking. This one is gonna be something I make for me, and then this one is potentially, this one was a gift for me. This one was for my mom, but I think she wants me to knit her something with it rather than her crochet something with it. But if she does decide to crochet something with it before I get around to knitting something for her, she'll take this back, and if she does, then I'll remove it from my yardage in, if that makes sense. But I'm gonna go ahead and count both of these. So anyways, she was in Kauai and found a yarn store. My dog is whining, I'm sorry. If you can hear that, I'm gonna try to wrap up the episode before I go feed her. Anyways, the brand, I guess. It's Hand Dyed Yarns of Kauai. This is a sock yarn, fingering weight. It's an 80-20 superwash, and the colorway is Tide Pools of Paradise. And isn't that so beautiful? I am thinking about knitting a Musselburgh hat with this. I just think it would be so pretty, and I was thinking about doing socks, but I'm just like, no, I feel like this would make a really beautiful hat. So I think I'm gonna knit a Musselburgh hat with it, maybe. And then this one is the same dyer, and this is a worsted weight, and it is in the colorway Native Hibiscus. It's really, really pretty. It's got some just like some mauvey tones, some pink, some purple, some kind of brown almost in there, and it's also very, very pretty. I might knit my mom another hat with it, or I don't know. What are some fun single skein projects? If you have any, let me know. I feel like I should knit my mom something other than a hat. But she also might want to crochet with this, so we'll see. Anyways, those are my two acquisitions. Yardage in is 680 with those two skeins. So my total yardage out currently, with everything that I have knit this year, that I finished, so including the Faye summer top and my socks that I just did, and everything that I've finished this year, except for the beanie that I made in the last episode. I didn't count that because I don't know. I didn't have a ball band for the yarn, so I don't know what the yardage on it was, and I didn't have it included in my stash anyways. Like, it wasn't something that I put in my yarn stash inventory, so it doesn't really need to be counted. I think that's fine. But total yardage out so far is 1,997.55 yards. Net change here is 1,379.55 yards. Making some good progress on my stash. I'm starting the year, and this is just to give some perspective. Do not judge me for how much yarn I have. This is something that is personal to everyone, what they feel comfortable with in a stash. Any judgment thrown my way, we'll be deleting those comments. So essentially I have over 150,000 yards of yarn. That's what I'm working with for the beginning of the year. And so that, yeah, net I'm down, what was it, like 1,300 yards. So we're just gonna see how much I can bring that down this year. It's not like my number one goal, as I've talked about in the last episode, but I do wanna have the number come down a little bit. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like my stash, it all fits in my yarn cabinet, and that's where I want it. Is like, I wanna, bring it down a little bit so it's not quite as, filled in there, but it's more so that I just want to get to that yarn before buying more yarn, basically. So I have to go change the battery, and then we'll wrap this up. So that is pretty much it. If you want to know any more about like my stash down and what I'm doing, let me know, and I'll try to answer more questions about it in maybe an upcoming episode or anything like that. But yeah, that's where we're at. I feel like I'm making good progress on my knits. I'm really excited about some upcoming projects I have, but I'll kind of save them to talk about when I actually have made sure that I know what yarn I'm using and all of that. And I'm hoping to get a couple of spring knits on the needles soon. and also I'm itching for a colorwork sweater or colorwork something, so we'll get something colorwork related on the needles shortly, I'm sure. In terms of life updates, I don't think I have anything for you. I guess to give a little bit of an update on my writing, I did finish draft 3 of my book that I'm working on, and it is currently with beta readers, and I think 2 people have finished it, which is wild. Like 2 people have read my book. It's kind of crazy. So I've been pretty busy with that. There was kind of I had a deadline for myself to get that draft done by the end of January, so it could be beta read this month. So I think that's why I haven't really been able to stay on top of my video editing, because I've been trying to make sure that I'm prioritizing my writing. Yeah, I think there's not really a whole lot else to share there. I will continue to share updates on my writing when there's like bigger updates, but I don't think I don't need to be giving you like an update every time, because it's a slow process. It's taking time, but it's amazing and I'm really enjoying it, so that's good. And then other things about life, I don't know if I have anything really to share. The weather here, we had a lot of snow. We had a lot of snow, and I forgot, I literally whipped up mittens. I had another finished object, but they are downstairs and I completely forgot about them. I will show them in next episode. Remind me to share those with you in the next episode. And it's also, I didn't add them to the yardage that I used for those. I don't know if that's been added into my yardage out, so whatever, it's fine. But yeah, we had a lot of snow here for a bit. It was really, really cold. So I whipped up a pair of mittens, and I've been wearing a lot of my knits to stay warm. And now finally the snow is gone, and I hope we don't get any more. I'm not a snow person. It's so beautiful and I'll love it for like the first day, and then it quickly becomes very annoying when I cannot leave my house because of the snow. Because it's hard to drive in the snow in this area because there's a lot of hills in my driveway. It's very steep. My car still doesn't do great in the snow, so if it's too snowy out on the other streets, then I can't go anywhere. And I don't go anywhere a lot anyways, but when I like don't have the option to go, I get very like stir crazy, I guess. So that's been happening weather-wise here. But it was also nice to really make use of a lot of my knits for when it was like super cold. I think that's everything that I have to share with you. I hope you guys have been staying warm, and I hope you've been enjoying your knitting. And if you were knitting along in the podcast, definitely let me know what you're working on. I don't know. I think that's everything. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for a little bit while I talked about my knitting, and I hope to see you back here in another episode, hopefully in the next 2 weeks. And until then, have an amazing time knitting, stay warm, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!